Welcome to another episode of Let's Make. This is the show where the food preparations we make won't necessarily result in a completed dish or meal. This is more about project-based food preparations. We'll learn to make your own bacon, sausage, condiments like ketchup, mustard, and even sriracha sauce, dog food, cat treats, human treats too. Today we're taking a look at pickles. We're going to do two kinds, bread and butter pickles and pickled jalapeños. First and foremost, what is pickling? Pickling is one of the oldest food preservation methods known to mankind. Our best evidence suggests it's been around for almost 4,500 years, maybe even longer. There are two main types of pickling method commonly used in the home, vinegar pickles and fermented pickles. Today we're looking at vinegar pickles, and we'll be looking at fermentation in a later video. The process of pickling involves submerging the food or foods in acid. This will help to preserve the food and kill any dangerous microorganisms. In this case, the acid is acetic acid, which is also known as vinegar. So I just wanted to make a quick note about some of the special equipment that you might need when you start pickling. Nothing too crazy, but for example, our jars, we're going to use, this is a 1 pint canning and pickling jar for the bread and butter pickles, and a 1 cup jar for the pickled jalapeños. This is a jar lifter, and that is for lifting jars, obviously, putting them in and out of hot water. This is Pickle Crisp. It's basically calcium chloride. It's designed to help keep things crisper longer when you pickle. And this is canning and pickling salt. It's basically just pure salt, ground very finely so it dissolves well. But essentially, a lot of salts you might buy, table salt, will have anti-caking agents that can turn your pickles cloudy and also sometimes give off flavors. So this is the stuff to use. And then this is, if you're doing it on the stovetop, you want a stock pot style pot in order to have enough depth for the pickles. And then something like this, a trivet or something else to go inside to keep the jars off the bottom of the pan. For the bread and butter pickles, we're going to be making 4 1 pint jars. And the ingredients are 2 pounds pickling cucumbers, 1 medium white onion, 1 medium red bell pepper. For the brine, we're going to use 3 cups of apple cider vinegar, 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of water, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And for the pickling spice, you're going to put this in each jar. 1 teaspoon yellow mustard seed, 1/4 teaspoon ground turmeric, 1/8 of a teaspoon celery seeds, and 1/8 of a teaspoon pickled crisp. To start, remove both ends of the cucumbers. Then take the cucumbers, onion, and bell pepper, cut into slices that are about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch wide. And don't be too concerned about being perfect. Now we're going to salt the vegetables. This will help draw out excess water, and this will make our pickles much crispier. Put each of the sliced vegetables in its own bowl. Add 1 teaspoon of canning and pickling salt to the bell peppers, 2 teaspoons to the onions, and 2 whole tablespoons to the cucumbers. Give them a toss, put them in the fridge for 3 hours, tossing once an hour. In the meantime, let's make our pickling brine. Add the vinegar, water, sugar, and ground cloves into a pan on medium heat. Whisk it until everything dissolves. Don't let it come to a boil. Also, you don't have to use heat when making the brine. You could just put it all in one bowl and whisk it together with a little extra elbow grease. It's just that using heat makes everything dissolve much more easily. Now just go ahead and add the pickling spices to the bottom of each jar. When the salted vegetables are ready to come out of the refrigerator, take them out, drain off the excess water, and weigh each individually. Be sure to note down that weight. Now put 1/4 of the weight of the cucumbers in the bottom of each jar. Then follow suit with the onions and the bell peppers. Pour your cooled brine into each jar. Leave about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch of headspace at the top. Then take a thin implement, like a butter knife or a skewer, move it around slowly in each jar to release any trapped air as much as possible. Add in any additional brine necessary to achieve the proper headspace. Now put the lids and rings on the jar and tighten them to what we call fingertip tight. So you're going to turn it just so you feel it snug, but you should be able to easily unscrew it with just a thumb and a finger. For the pickled jalapeños, we're going to keep it nice and simple. Just the jalapeños and the brine, no pickling spice. So for the ingredients, you're just going to need to get 10 to 12 jalapeños, and for the brine, it's going to be 3 cups of distilled white vinegar, 1 cup of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of pickling and canning salt. Cut off the jalapeno stem ends, then discard. Take the peppers, we're going to cut them into rounds about 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch thick. And remember, perfection is not important. Weigh the sliced jalapenos and divide them equally into the 1 cup jars. Just as before, whisk the brine ingredients together in a pan over medium heat and don't bring it to a boil. As before, fill the jars with the brine, then try to remove as much trapped air as possible and add any additional brine necessary to achieve the proper headspace. Then put on the lids, secure them to fingertip tight. Now let's prepare the pickles for long-term storage by pasteurizing them. I'm going to show you how to do this using a sous-vide water bath, but you can easily do this on your own stovetop and you don't really need any fancy equipment. If you are using the stovetop, use a pot that's deep enough to cover the jars with at least 1 inch of water. Additionally, you want to use something to stand the jars off the bottom of the pan, and an inexpensive temperature probe will make your life a lot easier. Whether you're using the stovetop or the sous vide method, here's how to properly pasteurize pickles according to the USDA. Before putting the jars in, heat the water to 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Add the jars to the water carefully using a jar lifter. Once they're all in the water, increase the temperature to between 180 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, make sure those lids are just fingertip tight. We need air to be able to escape during the heating process in order to create that vacuum seal. You'll most likely see some air bubbles escaping throughout the heating process. Keep the temperature at that 180 to 185 degree temperature range for 30 minutes and your pickles are pasteurized. After cutting the heat, I typically let the water cool for about 15 minutes, but you don't have to. Use the jar lifter to carefully remove the pickles from the water. Be sure to put the pickles in a place where they can be left undisturbed for 24 hours. The next day, check the pickles to make sure that the tops have vacuum sealed onto the jars. From time to time, you will have one that won't seal. This is perfectly okay. Just put those in the fridge and eat them first. The sealed pickles are now pasteurized. This means you can keep them at room temperature for up to 1 year. Just be sure to keep them out of direct sunlight, and once opened, refrigerate them thereafter. Have you done any pickling before? Did you try these? How did it work out? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe.